Good evening, Warriors, and welcome in to another edition of the R&R Sports Report. I'm your host, Randy Isbell. With me, as always, is Robert Hagan. Robert, how's it going today?
It is a great day because we have LC Warrior Baseball coming on, and they're playing here on Friday, right? They get a double on Friday. Is that right? Baseball, LC Baseball.
Saturday and Sunday.
Saturday and Sunday. And so lots of baseball, looking at that. Clarkson football, Clarkson soccer happened today, some senior day stuff. Oh, yeah, and LC basketball going on right now.
LC basketball, the men's team in the national championship as we speak. Unfortunately, they are struggling right now, down 14, as Shawnee State leading 44-30. Just under 18 minutes to go in the second half. We're going to do our best to keep you updated. If you are watching on Facebook or YouTube, I got a little tracker that I'm going to do my best to keep updated every minute or so and keep it going as LC hits a big three, their first points of the second half to make it an 11-point game. And let's start right there with the LCSE men and talk about their road here to the finals, as they survived the first round where the 1, 2, 4, and 6 seeds all fell in the 16-team tournament, which is just insane to me. The top seed, Indian Wesleyan, loses to Bethel 83-77. The second seed, William Penn, loses to Carroll 85-62. And then the number 4 seed, Faulkner, loses to Jamestown 88-83. And number 6 seed, Marion, loses to Loyola 69-62, while LCSE was able to take care of business against Oklahoma in 86-72. They had 5 different players scoring double digits in that game, and they went 13 of 30 from 3, which is a big theme for the Warriors. They've been shooting a ton of threes in this tournament.
And I think that's the best part about that ball game was that they were spreading the ball out quite well. I mean, you go back and look at all the stats of that game is, having all the guys getting involved, off the bench too. So it's great to see it. But, like you said, 13 of 30 from 3-point line. So
you want to do the second game real quick?
Yeah, the second
update. I can't do 2 things at once, apparently.
Yeah. The quarterfinals defeated Loyola 75-70 in overtime. 5 different players, again, in double digits. They were 10 of 37 from 3, shot 33% from the field. Andrew Afava hit a 3 with 12 seconds to go to tie it up, and then Hodges Bailey misses a 3 with 4 seconds to go, so they end up going into overtime. And then LC scores the last 7 points in overtime and is able to hold Loyola off. So
a fun story with that one, of course, their scheduled game is the exact same time as our friend David Doofenberg's kid's birthday. So I was up at Orchards Lanes doing the birthday party and keeping track on my phone. And with about 4 or 5 minutes left in the second half, I'm like, you watch my kids. I got to go out to the car. I got to go listen to the rest of this game.
Well, what the sad part was me is I couldn't get it tuned in trying to watch it and listen to it as I was doing football for Clarkson and dealing with all that. So it was hard to pay attention to it. So.
Yeah, but they do survive a very, very tough game. And then last night, their game against Sagu, the number 7 seed, was just insane. The Warriors could not miss from 3. They go 16 of 36 from 3-point line. Hodges Bailey was 7 of 9 from 3. That was all of his shots that he took from the field. He had some free throws in there as well. Scores 25 points, one off his career best, and his season high with the 25 points. The Warriors score 50 points in the first half. You go back and you look at their first 29 points scored in that game last night. They had 9 3-pointers and 1 2-pointer. Yeah. They just went, we're shooting from 3, and it's going to work out for us.
Yeah, we're trying to channel our inner LC today. But you notice both of us are decked out LC. I wore my last championship that Jake Albright got, the T-shirt from the Dome, and sporting the LC hat. So we're pulling for them.
We're definitely testing our ability to multitask while watching the game and then still trying to put on a decent radio production.
But Eric Watkins, dude, we're gonna get to Ozzy. We'll get.
He's excited, man. We talked all weekend.
We're gonna talk Ozzy rules in the second hour, but we'll get there.
Yeah, we were sprinkling in Aussie stuff all throughout talking NCAA tournament and how terrible our brackets look, and he's one of the people I will joke about here in a little bit as the way people present the way their brackets go. We'll get into that in a little bit. But again, they are taking on Shawnee State right now. It's a 12-point game, about 15-20 to go right now in the second half. This is both teams' first appearance in the final game. So we'll have a first-time champion here. Shawnee State, 30-2 on the season. Nice job by Albright, makes it a 10-point game. And they have a big man
Dude,
who is 6'11". I'm going to get his name right. E.J. Onu is a center for Shawnee State. He is averaging over 8 blocks a game in this tournament. But it's crazy.
I think the bigger thing, even though he's a big boy, I think the bigger thing is he can hit the three from outside.
Yes.
That's the big one. And then, gosh, Shawnee hits another three-pointer. So, and it's just crazy to watch these guys moving around the ball. So it'll be interesting to try to multitask for the last 14 and a half.
We have, as we were saying, we have a lot to get to in this. But if anyone's watching on the Facebook or the YouTube, go ahead and leave comments about stuff you want to talk about today. We're not going to really follow much of a set schedule. If you want us to bounce around, except for Aussie Rules, that has the specific sports that don't get enough airtime segment, Eric, so calm down. But anything else, tournament-wise, let me know about your brackets. We would love to hear. I want to know if anyone is as bad as mine, other than my kids. My kids were worse than mine, and that's been about it.
We talked about it last night between both of ours, and I still haven't got to the women's side, and it took me a few minutes to catch up. But I think I'm 1 point on the women's bracket ahead and 2 points ahead on the men's bracket.
Yeah, I want to know from anyone listening on KLCZ 88.9 or on our Facebook pages, how do you score your tournament? If you if you have a house bet, or the work pools,
right?
How do you score your tournament? Do you do it boring like Mr. Hagan over here, where every game counts as a point, and after this weekend, there's so many people that are just completely out of it because you've lost so many first-round games, and now there's only 15 games left? Or you do it like me and every website on the history of the planet, and the points go up. So it's 1 point in the first round, 2 in the second round, 4, then 8, then 16, then 32. So every round is worth 32. Or do you only have 63 points available?
Well, here's the thing. I was just trying to do it late minute last night, trying to catch up because I had not looked at my bracket. We had Clarkson football going on, the Riggers tournament up bowling and up in Craigmont, and so it was a busy weekend and trying to catch up. And so I was going out with a highlighter there last night, and so I thought, okay, let's just do 1 point, And as soon as I messaged you to tell you that I had 1 point, he's like, "How'd you score it?" But there are options, though. There are plenty of options.
Yeah. There's one option. There's one option that's off the table, and that was the option that you attempted. And that's mostly because I missed so many games in the first round. I need a chance still.
I tried the easy way out, but here, let me put this up there, and I don't know if we can see it all that well. If you look at that thing has got so many black highlighted marks out of it.
Unfortunately, I don't know if I have a chance. You're 1 point ahead of me in the men's bracket. I don't think I have a chance because I think everyone that you have advancing, I do too.
My Midwest is just shot. I mean, I got Houston going.
You still haven't marked off Texas. They're
I know, but I think it's Gonzaga. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. Calm down. I want to know. I really want to know what his bracket looked like if that was the case.
Well, no, there's a key moment he had. I'm in a group chat with the guys I used to do the kickoff podcast with, and a few others from the W2M network, and Eric did something, and we all do it, and I'm going to do it here as well. It makes me laugh about this time of the year. But so let's get into it. Let's talk about the NCAA tournament. We are now in the Sweet 16. My first question I want to ask you, and I've been thinking about this all weekend, and it helped me because I have no classes on Friday.
Must be nice.
But Did you like the tournament starting on a Friday instead of a Thursday?
Honestly, it's so used to it, and I know they've kind of done a few things at the with the school district. They've kind of shortened our bandwidth when it comes to the middle of March. Our bandwidth on our internet really shrinks down.
That's really disappointing. I remember going to class and having different teachers just having their TV set up, usually away from us.
Yeah.
So turned away from the students and then sitting at their desk so they could watch the basketball game. And like, I remember trying to get my math done as fast as possible so I could go hand it in just to get a minute look at what was happening.
That's what it was. When I was growing up, we wanted to watch the same thing. And about 3 years ago, they decided to start shrinking the bandwidth during those few days. But
that's why you use your phone.
Yeah, well, I even tried, and I couldn't even stream it. I tried even streaming on my phone, and I had difficulties with it.
I noticed this year, as far as the broadcasting goes, usually CBS.com has a place that you can go and click on something, and you can watch all 4 games in a box.
Right.
That option was gone this year.
So that's what I'm wondering. I mean, there was a lot of changes, and I'm thinking,
like they replaced that option with its own channel, and I was like, okay, fine, they'll be switching back and forth, and I'll just have that one on. Half of that time on that channel, it was like, hey, we're going to show all 4 games. We're just 2 guys on the studio talking. Like they weren't even showing basketball.
Well, that was the tough part, and especially on Saturday, as I drove to Othello to do the Clarkson football game, which we'll talk about in a little while. But that's where I was frustrated with, and I'm not going to mention the station out of Spokane that was doing it, but it was the Westwood One station. They were bouncing around between game to game. Something would happen, and they go to timeout. There's one game, and you're just on your seat, and especially with the Virginia game. And then all of a sudden, they switch it, and they go to a different game while Virginia is playing. And I'm just like, what are you guys doing? Why are you
Did they go back, though?
Yeah, like 10 minutes later after they rotated through the other ones. And I'm like...
Yeah, usually, I only had to listen to Westwood One every couple times.
Right.
Going to pick up a kid or whatever I have to do. But it usually sounds like they're pretty good about, hey, there's a break in this action. We're going to jump you over here real quick, but we'll be back in time, like a red zone.
Right. And I
was just really surprised that they didn't have that option where I could have the 4 games all on one screen. They do spread it out better this year. A lot to do with the COVID protocols and how long there's a break, that we weren't getting 3 games that all started within 2 minutes of each other. It was like 1 game every 30 minutes. So it spread out a bit more. So by the time your 4th game was starting, you were middle of the second half anyways, of the last game. So, we didn't have to worry about that as much.
Yeah, LC now cuts the lead to 4, 50-46 against Shawnee.
I believe that's a 7-0 run, 8-0 run for the Warriors right now.
Yeah. So
it's been a while since Shawnee's been off of the 50-point mark.
All of the games. So let's think about that. All of the games. There had to be one that sticks out as probably the best game you watched, but then there's also a game that were you most shocked about. So let's start with the best game. Best game of, do we want to do weekend or Monday through?
Yeah, let's just do the whole weekend. Let's do the first 2 rounds.
So which game for you was probably the best game that you watched?
Probably the one that destroyed my bracket the most. No, that's not true. There was a game worse. The Loyola Chicago completely destroying Illinois just made me almost burn my bracket. But Oral Roberts and Ohio State, that was a good back and forth game. And obviously, I have Ohio State winning that game. I have Ohio State in the Elite Eight, but I'm rooting hard for Oral Roberts. I thought that game was fantastic. And, it obviously wasn't the only upset in the game or in the whole tournament, but it was so fun. And watching a 15 seed beat a 2 seed, just fantastic. And it goes into overtime on top of it. I loved every second of that game. What about you?
Yeah, so my favorite had to be probably, I did have Loyola Chicago, got kind of a homer with that one from last year, kind of followed it. I think for me, I figured that the Eastern game, and I didn't get to watch it. Here's the reason why. Other than it was, we were driving, but I think the one that watching and following, I think, what the biggest was at one point Eastern was up 10 points, and they were moving the ball, spreading it around pretty easily, and I thought, that was going to be the big game. I think I'm more impressed, even though they lost. I think they're more impressive how far they pushed Kansas in that ball game. I really like the way they played, and that's just from listening, from one guy's opinion.
Mm-hmm.
You can't see the ball movement on the radio, but to be able to, visualize that those two brothers were just dominating that game. So it was great to see. But I think the one that just shocks me more than anything is probably Virginia. I am very shocked. I had Virginia going all the way to the round of 16.
Yeah, Haley had Virginia winning the whole thing. So that one kind of hurt. But as has been stated to me by a few different people, Virginia was one of those teams coming in with COVID issues.
Right.
Hadn't played for a couple weeks. So that one doesn't surprise me as much. I do think if they would have been able to survive Ohio, I think they could have gotten to that rhythm a little bit. Though the other team that was coming in with COVID issues, Kansas, survived the Eastern Washington game and then get just shellacked by USC.
Well, and
actually, before we move on, how surprised are you that we've only had one game get canceled?
I was just gonna say that, and driving on the way back, that was the big shocker. We knew it was going to happen, but from what Virginia Commonwealth University did, I thought they isolated pretty good. But then all of a sudden, there was like 3 or 4, and next thing you know, the last I heard, there was like 5 people that tested positive.
It goes quick.
And
it goes quick. I mean, even now, I know a lot of us are thinking we're getting out of it, but still, if you're hanging out in a group and one of you gets it, next thing you know, 8 of you have it.
Yeah, no kidding. But I think but the other team that I was very shocked about was probably Illinois losing to Loyola. Man. I didn't get to watch that one at all, but it was just crazy to think about.
How cool is it with Loyola Chicago? Was it the last tournament we had or the one before that where they were a much higher seed than this and made a run too? So I remember they still have the old lady there, and I remember she was the mascot a couple years ago. I just can't remember if it was the last tournament we've had or the one before. Shawnee State's getting things going. They're now back up by 8, just under 10 minutes to go. But to see them be able to make another run like this, and now all of a sudden, they're the better seed in their Sweet 16 matchup as they take on Oregon State. It's an 8 versus 12. And actually, out of those 4 teams, they're still the second best.
I would love to see them make it and then end up playing Houston. Can you imagine if that was how the Midwest bracket ended out? It's going to be Houston against Loyola Chicago. That would be unbelievable.
Great.
That would be
absolutely
awesome.
Great.
So I think the one conversation we had a lot going on at school the last 2 days was how shocked.
2018, they were an 11 seed. Thank you, Eric.
I think so. The big one for me is the shock of how well the Pac-12 is doing. 9-1.
They've been fantastic.
That's been the talk between our athletic department director and our PE coach and myself and a couple of the other admins up there at the school. And it was how shocked that the Pac-10 is doing.
Pac-12.
Or Pac, yeah.
Stop
Pac-12.
showing your age.
I know. I am old. I am.
And the one team that's been eliminated, Colorado, completely destroyed Georgetown.
Yeah. They just.
That was one of my Sweet 16 double-digit seeds I had moving on. It was Georgetown. I thought they would keep that momentum going. And they went, nope. They beat them by 23. And it was almost never even that close. They do get shellacked pretty good by Florida State. But yes, Colorado had a good run. Oregon State, who only makes the tournament because they get the run in the Pac-12 tournament and win it as a 12 seed. As you said, they're in the Sweet 16. They're taking on Loyola Chicago. USC is in the Sweet 16 after destroying Kansas. How about Oregon beating Iowa in the second round by 15 and taking out Garza?
Mm-hmm.
So now you get USC versus Oregon going at it in the second round. Not to mention UCLA, who played in the opening 4. So fantastic run by the Pac-12.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where some of these teams end up in this second part. So let's figure this then. If you had to build your second chance bracket.
Well, no, I don't want to get there yet because I want to bring up the point I was talking about, Eric.
All right.
I want to know what you feel was your best call in this tournament.
So far?
Yes. Something that you put on your bracket that you're proud, you're very proud that it's still going on, it's tough to do when we have so much red marks, which, by the way, I looked. There are 2 games that I can beat you on. We have the same Michigan guy, or you can still get me with Michigan.
Right.
If Michigan goes farther, because I have Michigan going out in the Elite 8. So if Michigan makes the Final Four, you're going to crush me in those points. But I have Houston and Arkansas both going to the Elite 8, and you don't.
I don't.
So there's still a chance I can beat you. I didn't think there was until I was looking at the brackets. But yeah, what's that one call that you've had that you're the proudest of out of the first 2 rounds?
For me, it has to come out of the South region, and it's the Texas Tech Utah game. I don't think Texas Tech got a fair shake with their seeding, or not Texas Tech, but Utah. I mean, Utah, it was 20-8 on the season, and then had to go up against Texas Tech. I think Utah played a lot better, but Texas Tech is one of those teams that.
So your best call is a 6 seed beating an 11 seed?
Well, no, I think Utah got no, but I'm saying I think Utah kind of got hosed in that. I could have easily seen that whole side shook up a little bit more, but I just like how.
Why does your wife always give us an angry face when we go on the show? By the way,
well, it's probably not the wife.
Yeah, it is.
No, I think it is the grandson. We have
the grandson is as mad at us
because what happens.
What did we do to him?
He's only 2. He's only 2. But here's the thing. What he does is he takes and grandma hands him the phone. And so they do their Tuesday night. They go and buy dinner and they go back to Tori's house and they watch the phone. And so grandma hands him the phone. So he's probably talking.
And then he gets mad at me.
He's probably talking to the phone right now. I guarantee you he's probably talking to the phone saying, Papa, Papa, Papa. Why am I not responding to him?
Stop cussing me out just because I'm disagreeing with your papa, but it's okay.
But he hits the buttons.
Friends.
He hits the buttons, and it's just funny that that's the one that he wants to hit. And so, I don't know. He's getting involved.
Yes,
I keep
I'll take it. I'll take it getting involved.
She needs to stream it up to the TV at Tori's house, but she hasn't done that yet. Uh-oh, now my phone's going off. What did you do?
I've started a war. That's fantastic.
That's probably what had happened there.
I bring it up because I think my best call was Oregon beating Iowa. That was one thing I commented when I posted all my family's brackets on there. And a friend of mine had posted, "Oh, there's no love of Iowa in your house." Because we all had them either – the kids loved Grand Canyon. So they both had Grand Canyon beating Iowa. And then Haley and I both had Oregon beating Iowa. And for them to do that, I was happy with that call. And that's where I bring up how people act. It was all Babe. So she's putting the grandson on task. But that's where I bring up Eric, who he commented, not that one, but he was telling everybody to be warned about Loyola. We're all so funny, and I put myself in that same category. Our brackets all look so red, which I love. If my bracket is not mostly red by the end of the weekend, this is a boring tournament. I want my bracket to be burnt. But all of us on Monday when we go back to work or we go to school, all of us, we don't talk about that. We tell you that one game that we got right. Yeah. And you go, you should have listened to me, even though everything else was wrong. Out of 63 games, I got 30 right. But that one game, why didn't you listen to me? We all do it.
I think the tough one, listening to some of these people at school and the kids, we try to get the kids involved with listening and watching and try to, with COVID going on at school, we're trying to find something to get involved and we get the kids happy about something. So I tried during this time, always to talk sports with some of these guys, but I think the big one was all the kids were asking, well, how do you feel about the Oregon getting the push right in and then how they played against Iowa? I mean, that's a big matchup, and that's a great matchup to jump in and play your first game of the tournament. Here you go.
Right.
You don't get to play VCU and warm up. You jump right in and play against Garza and Iowa. And
I do. I mean, I understand their cutoff for Tuesday.
Mm-hmm.
Of okay, as long as everyone is tested good by Tuesday, we will not replace them with somebody else. But I too kind of wish that they would have had, because they had the 4 teams ready.
Right.
It would have been nice if they would have pushed that just a little bit farther, just to give us the best chance not to have this kind of a forfeit. So now I'm worried. I mean, obviously they're going to stay over there, but now you have all of this time off. Mm-hmm. It's not like the NAIA where LC's played 3 games in 4 days. Now you're going to get almost a week of staying. I mean, obviously, for the most part, you're staying in your hotel, but there is that chance. And I really hope that we don't have a Sweet 16 game that has to get canceled.
Yeah.
Or even worse, a Final Four game in 2 weeks.
That's going to make it, and that's the tough thing. I mean, it's pros and cons of them all being in the same place, but it's going to get awful boring for some of these guys. Mm-hmm. So then, if that was the case, do you restructure it? But then you look at
we can't. They said they can't.
But that's the thing. You know why? It's because of the millions and millions of dollars that these TV companies make, and they don't want to lose out. They don't want to crunch it into so many games. Nice rebound there by Albright.
Yeah, by the way, just under 5 minutes to go. Shawnee State 62, LC State 55. Warriors have the ball. And Mitchell just hit a big 3. Mitchell cuts it down to 4. What a game. Sorry, guys, for us listening. We're glued trying to see if the Warriors can pull off their first championship.
But, I applaud the NCAA for what they're doing and putting all this, having everything in one area. But, they need to make that adjustment. We don't want to isolate these kids for what it's going to end up being 3 weeks.
Right.
So, come on, guys. I mean, what about their studies?
Now they have plenty of study time.
They got plenty of study time, but
just away from the teachers and.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be even harder.
Yes.
And so I think they should have made a little bit of an adjustment on it, but in a year full of turmoil and changes and being adaptable, it's going to be huge. So.
I do wish. And again, I really love that they pushed it back to Friday just for my schedule, but now it's a little easier to get 1 day off instead of the 2 for people that aren't on my school schedule. And then it's kind of actually cool because Monday you get 1 or 2 games in the day, and then they pack them all into the evening slate. But then you still have that Monday slot where you're getting a bunch of games. And then obviously the women's games getting going, and there's just basketball all over the place. So I kind of liked it.
It's instead of seeing it on Thursday, Friday, it's just Friday, Monday. So,
yeah.
But you see the only thing bad is you see the same teams on that time. You get the day 2s of both of them. So day 1, day 2. Yeah, I guess you're right.
But still, the first 2 days are always the best because you get so many games. So I like that Saturday now. At least this year, you had so many games. Right. So I want to bring up what you were just about to bring up before I cut you off.
You're okay.
So we had 4 double-digit seeds move on. 2 of them from the Pac-12 and the UCLA, Oregon State. Syracuse moves on, which I don't know why I didn't move them in my bracket because they're that team that always shouldn't be in the tournament. And then once they're in, they go on a run. And then, of course, we've talked about Oral Roberts, who've just been fantastic. They are the second 15 seed to reach the Sweet 16. Robert, can you name the first?
Ione.
No.
No, they were probably a 12, huh? Yeah,
they were Slam Dunk City, Florida Gulf Coast.
No.
Yep, Florida Gulf Coast.
No.
They were fantastic.
Crazy.
Their highlights I still watch sometimes. All right, but I want to know. You have been lucky. You've only lost 1 Final Four team.
How about get a little deeper?
I've lost 2.
Final 2.
Yeah, you've lost the final 2. I've lost the final 2, but I also lost Texas. But if I could give you a chance to redo your Final Four right now with the 16 teams you have, do you change any of the guys that you had in your Final Four? And who would you have in the one bracket where you had Illinois?
I think that's the only one I change. I think Gonzaga's way too much of a powerhouse. I was worried about Gonzaga playing against Iowa because I had Iowa getting there with Kansas, and then Kansas, I gave them the nod, but I think Gonzaga is going to end up winning and running away with that side of the bracket. Michigan, I feel the same way. They'll meet Texas or Bama, I think now. I think Bama will get there, but I think it's the Midwest for me. All right, go ahead and move Houston all the way up there.
So you're just going to go, you're going to say highest seed and move on?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with Gonzaga, Michigan, and Baylor, and Houston moves up.
I'm going to agree with you on the 3, Gonzaga. I'm going to move Michigan into mine. I had Texas. And then I had Baylor moving on, and I still like them in their section. John Stockton over there watching championship. His son playing over here, Sam Stockton, a freshman. Got a little bit of game time.
As they're showing him right now.
He got a little game time last night. But for the Midwest, for me, I'm on the Loyola Chicago bandwagon. Let's go. We got to have one. I mean, this has been a crazy tournament so far and a crazy year. Let's have some fun in the Final Four.
Yep. Jump on with Sister, what's her name? Sister.
Eric will tell us in a minute. 65-58, Shawnee State over LC State. 3 minutes to go in the game. Warriors have the basketball. We will keep you updated and see if the Warriors can pull off the big comeback as they're moving the ball around. Mitchell for 3. That's going to rim out no good. And it'll be back to Shawnee State. So it's going to be a tough road for the Warriors, but the way they shoot the 3, they can get hot. Let's talk now LC women. They were also in the Sweet 16. As I have comments. Sister Jean.
There it was. Yep.
Yeah, I knew Eric would know. They were in the Sweet 16 as well, but they had a really, really tough matchup against Campbellsville, and they lose that one 69-53. They were down 20 at halftime, 36-16, just could not get shooting-wise. In the first quarter, they shot just 2 of 11, 0 of 7 from 3, just weren't finding their mark. They do win the second half 37-33, so they were getting a groove just too little too late. Abby Johnson leads the way, 22 points and 9 rebounds. And they do finish the season 14-6. Still a fantastic season for the Warriors as they just weren't able to get done against a really, really tough team. And the women's bracket was a lot more chalk than the men's, as you now have the top 2 teams. I haven't looked at the score yet. It's now the Warriors within 3, 65-62. Shawnee State leads 1:36 to go. And we get a timeout on the floor.
There must be somebody out there in the hallway.
Did you hear cheering?
I'm hearing some cheering. So somebody's got the game on.
But on the women's side going on at the same time, which, I mean, obviously you want both the women and the men to make the finals, but I don't know how my head would be able to handle having both of them being played at the same time right now and doing a radio show. We may have just had to start an hour later.
Yeah.
It's just for my brain. But it's Thomas More and Westmont, the 1 and 2 seeds. Thomas More is in their first championship game. Westmont in their third. They lost the championship game in 2018, won it back in 2013. And speaking of men and women's tournaments, this is where we'll possibly get a little controversial, possibly get a little political.
I don't remember her name.
But I want to bring up the differences that have been going on in the men's and women's tournament as far as facilities go and food goes. I'm with you. I can't think of the woman's name who I was watching the Twitter videos from, but she's from Oregon, and she's posted multiple videos of them getting to the site, and they have a little rack of barbells is their weight room. And you look on the other side, and the men have this just amazing setup of everything you can imagine. And then she posts another video of their dinner, and it's like what you would get for a TV dinner tray, while the men have this whole banquet set up. This 2021, why are we still doing this?
Yeah, I never did see that one. I did see her vent about the weight room and all that, but it was crazy to see the open space, a huge amount of open space that they could have been setting up something all around it. Sedona Prince. Prince.
Eric just was beating you to it too.
Yeah, not by much. Not by much.
But it's just, I mean, especially their first argument that they didn't have enough space for the women's, and then, like you said, they showed all of that room. I get it. The men's bracket brings in more money than the women's bracket, but you can accommodate these players who have to be over there for weeks.
Mm-hmm.
They are in their own bubble as well. I mean, give them at least some very good accommodations at the very, very least. It was ridiculous to me.
Yeah, and especially you're in Texas. Everything's bigger in Texas. Even those rooms, they're huge. And offensive. So 67-63, 35 seconds left. Shawnee State leads by 4. Offensive foul on Shawnee State. Now the ball goes into LC's hands here. So this is still doable.
Absolutely. And so, again, especially the way they shoot the 3. So, I mean, obviously they did come back and they've updated and upgraded some of these facilities for the women. But how sad is it that she posted on Twitter just a video and boom, all of a sudden we have all of these accommodations for it. Why do we have to throw a fit just to finally get something equal for these two?
Well, and for me, the apology from NCAA didn't seem too.
No.
I mean, it was like, all right, we're going to just automatically generate an apology. It didn't seem like it was very heartfelt at all that it was even happening.
NCAA is so shady anyways.
But here's the thing. They've done a few good pluses through this year with everything going on. But then all of a sudden they do that stuff and it just almost like a 1 step forward, 2 step back now. So now we're going to have to rebuild, and now we're going to have to look at the whole thing for next year. So do these colleges start making a huge stink going into next year when we get into this final time? Do they,
you would hope they wouldn't have to.
Yeah.
And I'm curious the differences in the Ncaa tournaments as far as how do they go. Obviously, the Ncaa did things differently with their opening round games as the Warriors turn the ball over there as the ball gets knocked out of bounds. 30.8 seconds to go. Shawnee State gets the ball back. And now the Warriors are going to have to foul and hope that they will struggle from the free throw line. But they had their opening rounds, and they made sure that both the women and the men were in the same spot. I mean, everyone that was getting a opening round site, like Lewiston was able to do. Right. You had to be able to accommodate both the men and women. You'd have to think at that point you're getting the same accommodations. Just on the record, the Bears of Shawnee State are 8 of 12 from the free throw line.
I think the bigger number I just saw was they have 17 turnovers to LC's 4 turnovers.
Yeah, but they're also crushing them on the glass. So they're at the line now, are the Bears, and we will keep you updated. Another thing I want to bring up is just how shady some NCAA stuff is. Have you seen the story with the Stanford Wrestling team?
I have not.
So Stanford came out and said, we are no longer going to have wrestling. We're cutting the program.
Don't tell Corey Thieveridge that.
Oh, Corey Thieveridge is the reason I know about this story because he posted all about it.
The entire Thieveridge family are nothing but wrestlers.
Yes. He posted the story on his Facebook. This is how I was able to learn about it. They told their wrestlers that if you can raise the money, maybe we'll keep it. And wrestling is one of the cheapest programs you can go. You give them some weights, give them a mat. That's all the wrestlers really need, and they will get the job done. I forget what they said they needed to raise. Well, the Stanford man raised way more money than that. Like just crushed the number that Stanford said that they needed to raise. And Stanford still said next year we're still not going to have a wrestling program. This is while the season's going on. They just had the NCAA championships for wrestling, and a couple of Stanford wrestlers were in those tournaments. So they took their jerseys and they wore them inside out. So they were just black and they were not showing the Stanford logos. And one of their wrestlers ended up winning his national championship in the full black. It's tough. I know money is weird right now with the COVID stuff, but come on. I mean, right. You said you have to raise this money, and they did that and then some.
Yeah,
and you still do it.
And I just read it. They've raised more than $12 million to try to save a 104-year program.
It's just
Stanford.
It's sad.
Stanford, what's the matter with you? Seriously.
And again, I guarantee you, all of this huff and fuss that these guys have been putting out, which good for them. Stanford is going to see this backlash, and they're going to save the wrestling program. It's not that you raise all this money. It's now our image might be tarnished now that you've went out and told people. That's what's going to save the program. So you're just telling people you have to throw a big fit if you want to get.
That's exactly what I was going to say. You just made a great point about it. We shouldn't have to come to the point of raise a stink for something to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, come on. We know the money's tight. We know we can't do certain things. But do you take a program like that? No, you got to shift money around a little bit. You find ways to keep the programs. I mean, it's the same thing with certain things, at the high school level. You find ways to make things work, shift it around, because we know that everything's going to come back. We know things will come back and even better. But come on, guys, you got to make some kind of change, and it shouldn't rely on a Prince making a video. It shouldn't rely on a team making a statement, turn around their singlets and wearing them different to say something, which tells me, is there somebody in NCAA that needs to be replaced?
How about this entire NCAA at this point? How many schools have we seen are dropping all these different programs and stuff? I get it.
But it's the same thing with our bowling. I mean, how many times have we complained, and I hate to say this word, complained or bitched about what is happening?
Watch the cuss words on the radio. I
but
apologize for Robert's language.
But it's the same thing with bowling and what's happening with USBC and the change from USBC to ABC to, and all the affiliations changing. To now you get hardly anything with your dues. You might as well just do like what we've talked about here in our association is pay a local fee. That money stays here locally. We put stuff together for awards here. But then when you go and bowl nationals or you go and bowl state tournament, you pay a $5 participation fee.
Right.
I mean, then you know where your money's going. It's not going to build a building in Texas that's going to house the program. And so, I mean, it's the same thing. It shouldn't come down to that.
As LC down by 6, just missed a 3. We're under 15 seconds to go. They're trying to get a foul off. And I believe they finally did call a foul with 9.1 to go. So now it is looking rough for the Warriors. And your parents bring up a good point, and I don't know, I haven't read fully on the story, but I doubt they did. But they want to know if they gave the money to Stanford that was raised. I would highly doubt it. I don't know what they would do with it if they just give it all back. Obviously, you'd probably have to keep a list of where you got all the money from. Maybe they threw a big party. I don't know. Maybe they'll start their own school. Who knows?
We'll have to do some reading into it because I'm just looking. It says raised over. This article says it's raised over $10 million in an attempt to preserve it. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes.
As Warriors down 7, put up a 3, banked it in, so not dead just yet. Down 4 with 2.6 to go. You need a bit more than a miracle right now for LC. But again, a fantastic season. We'll talk about the end of that game when it finalizes. But last thing I want to say on this point is for both the wrestling team for Stanford and the way that the women were treated in this NCAA tournament. I know all of the attention goes to, on the NCAA level, all of the attention goes to football and men's basketball because those are the two programs that bring in the most money. However, those programs are built, and the way that money comes in should be spread out, not just to those two programs or to build onto a stadium, but to help with all of these other programs. I get it. I mean, I was a tennis player. I get that we're not going to have a ton of fans to bring in money for the tennis team. That is for these other sports to build in, so you can still have this and be able to fund it. So, I mean, you got to find different ways to get around it. And obviously this year, I get it, was tougher because those two sports weren't able to have their fans. But again, obviously it wasn't money for Stanford, as Shawnee State does win the national championship. So congratulations to them, and congratulations to the LC Warriors for a great season. But Shawnee State wins at 74-68 in the game. I'll just go over a couple quick stats. James Jones for the Bears, 7 of 9 from the free throw line, 4 of 9 from 3. He gets 27 points, also gets 10 rebounds. Looking at a few more, Donovan Carlisle gets 8 rebounds for the Bears. On the Warriors side, Damique Mitchell leads the way, 21 points. He was 4 of 10 from 3. Khalil Stevenson, 3 of 5 from 3, scores 19 points. Christian Bradley gets 11 as well. Jake Albright, who is the big sixth man, for the Warriors, has 8 points and 7 rebounds in his time on the court. So a tough way to lose it. They get to the finals one step closer than they were in the last tournament, but a great showing as championship finalists for the Warrior men.
Just real close to tie that up to reading in this article really quick. It's Robert Hatta, a 97 4-year Stanford wrestler, says there's a $10 million that consists of over 200 contributors. They will not release the names of the donors. They just say that the large donations have been pledged by Stanford wrestling alum and close friends of the program, and should go towards reinstatement of supporting the wrestling program. Mm-hmm. So that's all it says. It's
so it does sound on there that it's been pledged, so the money hasn't been given yet. So
correct.
Probably just will be unpledged if Stanford doesn't budge on that. Let's quickly move as we've talked a bit longer on some of these topics. Then we always schedule out, and that's always fun. And then obviously we have been hooked on the basketball game. But I do want to give some time to the women's tournament on the NCAA side. And I want to quickly go through some of the stuff that has happened so far here in day 1 of round 2. As finals right now, you have number 1 seed NC State beating South Florida 79-67. The 5 seed Iowa beats the 4 seed Kentucky 86-72. 6 seed Michigan beats number 3 Tennessee. Lady Vols go down 70-55. The 5 seed Georgia Tech beats the 4 seed West Virginia 73-56. Number 2 seed Baylor, who's been fantastic, crushes Virginia Tech 90-48. The number 1 seed in my champion prediction, South Carolina, beats Oregon State 59-42. And currently going on right now, you have 2 games left, one with 50 seconds to go in the second quarter. The number 1 seeded UConn all over Syracuse 41-26. And the number 1 seeded Stanford over Oklahoma State at halftime 42-27. And the one thing I want to bring up about the first round, of the women's tournament is how chalk that tournament was compared to the men's ridiculousness. Mm-hmm. Out of the 32 games that were played in the first round, 3 were a worse seed that won the game. And not even just that. Usually, especially on the men's, you want to split your 7-10 matchups or your 8-9 matchups because they'll probably go 2-2. All 7 and 8 seeds won their games. So the 9 seeds could even win.
I only missed 9 games.
Well, because you're chalk. You win chalk. I missed 10, so it's fine. But there were 3 upsets. Unfortunately, one of them was Gonzaga.
Right. I think we were both shocked about that one.
Yeah, that one hurt both of our brackets. Gonzaga loses their game to Belmont 64-59. And unfortunately, WSU and Idaho State both go out of the tournament as well. Cougars lose to South Florida 57-53. And not surprisingly, but disappointingly, the Bengals of Idaho State lose their game to number 4 Kentucky 71-63. So these 3 teams we've been following all year long, other than Idaho, of course, who just missed out losing to Idaho State. And we got nothing after Monday.
So it's going to be tough to follow the rest of that one out. But, I think the biggest one for me, besides that Gonzaga game, was probably the Bama game. Bama beats North Carolina. I figured North Carolina would have been the team that would move on there, and I don't know. I can't tell you the name of that division. They were all funny names this year. Come on, why would you do that? I mean, hemisphere and River Rock brackets. Come on.
You just want the East, South,
yeah,
Midwest?
Just leave it like it should be.
No, give us crazy names. I like it. Let's have some fun with it. One thing I'm noticing looking at the women's bracket that I want to get your take on, because the women are doing it like the men usually do, and games are all over the place on each day. Do you like it that way, or do you like it the men's way this year, where they did the right side of the bracket one day and the left side of the bracket the next day, and then back to the right, and now we're back to the left? How do you feel about the way the brackets get scheduled?
Well, I like the way, even if they would keep it in one area and they did the ball games all in, like the Bloomington area, Indianapolis area, like they're doing for the men's side, and doing it all down the middle, all of the West is one day, all of the East is one day. I like that. But do you miss bouncing around? I miss, and I think darn good and well that Spokane is really missing the revenue coming in from that. So I think, there's pluses and minuses, but I'm going to say I like the way this year that the men did it. Yeah.
It just makes the bracket look so clean.
Yeah.
And I felt so bad for my son, who's 12. He doesn't really follow college basketball. I had him and my 3-year-old daughter, and both fill out brackets this year. And poor Chase had his entire right side of his bracket was red after day one, because it was all on the right side the first day. All 4 teams he had in the Elite Eight were out in the first round. So I was like, well, I don't have to look at your bracket anymore, but I'm sorry.
After I realized you did that with the kids, I think next year I'm going to have Bane. Hey, Bane, just come on over.
Yes.
We'll do 2 brackets. I'll do mine like I normally do, but we'll put Bane's name on it and just say, hey, point to which one you want.
I will say, Addie, for the most part, would just say the name I said last. So I was nice to her and said the higher seed last. So she was a chalk for a while, but she would get really surprising with some of the ways she would just flip on herself. Like I said, both of my kids really love Yellowstone State or Grand Canyon. Sorry, they both loved that one. My favorite was Addie was really surprised every time I said Morehead State. She just stopped and Morehead State, like that's what is that? And she had them in the Elite Eight because of that, and that didn't work out very well for her.
Well, and that's the thing. He's going to be 2, and we'll bring it up next week because his birthday will fall up next week. But he's just getting to that point where, give him a marker. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to hand him a bracket, and I said, just point, and then I'll write it down, and he'll just go.
Absolutely. It's fun. Just let him in on the fun. And my son doesn't really watch college basketball, but multiple times this weekend, he's like, how's my bracket doing? I go, dude, you don't want to know. All right, let's get into one more controversial thing because we haven't enough today. And let's get into this Desean Watson mess. And luckily, we've been running long on everything else. We don't have to spend a lot of time
That's okay.
on this. But what is it now, 16?
It's 16
lawsuits?
And I heard 14 when I was prepping
there's a chance at 10
14.
more. I've heard on the radio coming down here that there's a chance at like 25 of these things.
It's just crazy to think. And this guy being probably the number one person that was going to sign or get traded or move.
Well, he's already signed. He's had a big deal.
Well, yeah, but everybody thought he was going to get pushed out, and now all of a sudden, you might not be playing next year. There's still
whether you want to or not.
Hey, you might you might just be sitting out because.
But this story is so strange to me, because obviously I'm one of those people that I'm going to believe the victim until proven otherwise in these situations. Obviously, it takes a lot for them to come out anyways, especially, back in the day. Hopefully, it's getting easier and easier for them. And so I'm always with the victim. This story, though, just feels weird because it's all this same lawyer who seems like a celebrity lawyer. He's reminding me of the lawyer from Breaking Bad, with the way I've seen the way he operates and stuff. So it's him that I don't trust, not these females that he has on all these lawsuits, because it's all him. And it's the fact that he went to them last fall and went, I got all these lawsuits for you, and we just want to get money. Like, on the hush hush, we won't tell anybody. And then Desean Watson went, absolutely not. And he went, all right, well, we'll just wait. Oh, you want to get traded? Oh, no, hold on. And then, so I don't know. Hopefully it's like that. and all these women have not had to deal with Desean Watson being a creep this whole time, but he is a professional athlete who might have that superior complex deal going on. So it's I could see this going either way and not be that surprised.
I think what's going to end up happening, and people probably think I'm weird about saying it, but it's going to be another almost feeling trial style as the whole OJ murder.
It's not going to.
Oh no! I have a funny feeling.
Nobody's going to follow this like OJ Simpson.
It's going to get big. It's going to get.
I was in 5th grade during the OJ Simpson trial, and I remember us not when they did the verdict. We stopped class and watched the verdict in class.
Right.
That's not going to happen.
I think it's going to take just as much publicity as the other. It's not going to go
lawyer
away
is as TV hungry as he seems to be.
And I think that might be.
But now the question, I want to get off of that because, again, who knows? Yeah. We're not going to know facts for a while now. I want to bring it to just, obviously football's secondary now in these cases, especially if they are true. If they are true, Desean Watson, you're a terrible person. Please don't play NFL ever again. I want the Ray Rice treatment right now. For that many to go through, and you've been doing this. If these are all true, get rid. I don't want you in the league anymore. With that said, I'm sure he'll take a year off and be just fine. We saw Michael Vick. We saw Josh Gordon just gives 800 chances.
Well, I even quit.
Big Ben had his stuff.
Well, you even know, you know me. I even quit wearing my Ray Rice jerseys. Mm-hmm. They're sitting in my closet right now. Still 2 of them. Yep. I think I wore them like twice. It's just hard to you feel like you're promoting this guy if you're wearing them, and I don't want that to happen.
But football side, is he even tradable now? While all of this is going on?
I don't think so. I don't think teams want the headache. I really don't.
Do you think his price is lower now?
It depends on how bad he wants out of Houston away from the whole.
Right.
If you're going to make that much of a move, but do you want to go? So here's the question with that: if that's what you want, and now you're going to take a smaller deal, do you move into a smaller market, or do you go to the big market and hope you go into New York and things don't get? You know how bad you want it. You've been on this train for a long time.
If Desean Watson is innocent, I want Desean Watson really, really, really bad. I don't know. I think it's impossible because obviously this is going to drag out for a bit. You would think if Houston was going to move Watson, it would be before the draft because obviously they are low on draft picks and they would need to use Watson to add some draft pick capital. So it's not going to happen after the draft because then there's no point. Obviously, it might save them a cap hit if they wait because I think it's like June 10th, right? Something in there as far as the way cap penalties happen on trades. So that might be different. But then, you're just going to wait a year for this draft capital and then the teams you're trading with, like say you trade with the Jets and now instead of having the second pick guaranteed, you're hoping that Desean Watson's just terrible. Or you're going to end up with like a 20th pick instead in the first round. So I think he's untradeable now, which is disappointing as a Jets fan. Again, if all of this stuff goes away and it's proved false. But I don't know. It's going to be a complete mess. And I'm with Eric. Just the way it has come off since day one. I don't want to not believe victims, but it's just been really shady the way it's all come out, and it all being that same lawyer, and there's not another lawyer that's been involved with any of it. But we'll see. Just day by day, and we'll go through it. Let's go through some NFL signings real quick, as it is 47 degrees outside right now. As you've been listening to KLCZ 88.9 FM Lewiston here on the R&R Sports Report. Also, check us out on Facebook and YouTube. We're about 40 likes away on our Facebook page before Robert and I have to play some tennis. And we'll get into that a little bit more. We've had a very busy first hour.
Oh, my Lord.
That just trying to catch up on stuff here, which has been fantastic. But some NFL signings, it slowed down a little bit this last week. But the wide receivers have started to go off the board. Will Fuller goes to Miami on a 1-year deal. Kenny Golladay, who you were hoping was going to be a Raven, signs a big 4-year, $72 million deal with the Giants. A.J. Green goes to Arizona. And if A.J. can stay healthy, that receiving core could be fantastic.
Are you shocked that they gave him that much money after the injury?
It's only $8 million.
They're guaranteeing him $6 million.
That's fine.
Because
they're hoping if he stays healthy, he's going to be ridiculous
right.
in that setup.
With Hopkins and him. And
if Fitzgerald comes back, which you think he might play one more year, because he's getting close to some Jerry Rice numbers.
That would be nuts with Kyler Murray.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, dude.
It'd be a fun off watch. And then Judy Smith-Schuster surprises everybody and stays in Pittsburgh on a 1-year, $8 million deal, even though Baltimore offered him more, Kansas City offered him more, Philadelphia offered him multiple years. He met with the Jets, and apparently they didn't give him an offer. So I was kind of surprised with that. But I don't blame him if you love the place so much and you want to stay in Pittsburgh so much that you're taking less money. I can't argue with that.
And I think that's the thing. But wasn't it a few weeks ago? It was like, okay, I'm done. I want to go. But then all of a sudden now his story is,
Do you think maybe that was because he thought Big Ben was going to leave? Maybe. Do you think he likes Big Ben that much? Maybe. I don't know.
I'm still worried about it because you lose Pouncey, you lose Alejandro on the left side. I mean, Pittsburgh's going to find they've got to find somebody to replace on that line, or they're going to have to draft some pretty good dudes.
I don't think this was a football move for Juju. It has to be something about living in Pittsburgh, or just that organization. Because obviously you're not staying in Pittsburgh because you think your numbers are going to be better. Because other than a couple years ago, his numbers keep declining,
right.
And Big Ben's even older now. I don't think you stay in Pittsburgh because you think you can win a ring. They're probably the 4th or 5th best team. Okay, calm down. The radio computer just went weird on me over here. I think we're still on the air.
Is Seth doing something in there?
Yeah, probably. Seth is tired of listening to us talk and is messing things up.
I think he's in there shaking his head. I don't know.
I don't know if he's even listening to us in there.
Or not. I don't know.
But they're probably the 4th or best team in the AFC, so you're not there for a ring. And obviously he took less money, so it's not
right
money-wise. So it has to be he either loves that organization enough or he loves that area enough. And if that's the case, I can't blame him.
Right. I agree. Are you sure? And here's the other one. Are you shocked how much the Giants are doing? Giants signing Kenny Golladay for $72 million. And then, also signing Kyle Rudolph for a 2-year deal, $14 million.
Mm-hmm. And don't forget, they just got a Dory Jackson today.
Yeah, and
3 years, $39 million.
So now Daniel Jones got a lot of people to throw through. Does that help his game?
Well, it's better. I mean, I honestly, they're giving him the best chance to win right now. And if he fails, then it's time to move on.
Right.
This is a prove it year for Jones for sure.
I think with Saquon on there, I mean, it's going to be huge. I look for them to move up in that division.
And that division's garbage.
Well, yeah.
So now, who's the favorite now? Is the football team or the Giants?
Even though the football team now probably and possibly is going to keep that name.
Right. I did see that today. I sent that to you.
And
we could get the Washington football team as a locked-in name.
But, with Fitzmagic going there, I'm going to leave. Quote me. Tell Jimmy Madoff. I think the Giants. I think I'm going to better write it down. Robert's taking the Giants in early.
I'm not making any predictions.
Pre-draft, I'm taking the Giants in the NFC East. Sorry,
and then
Shannon Wilson.
I want to bring up 4 quarterback pieces of news before we move on. Marcus Mariota left the Raiders, and I was wondering where he was going to go. Well, he looks like he's going to stay with the Raiders and take a $4.5 million pay cut. Now, is that because he thinks this is the last year for Carr and he wants the best chance to be able to take over that job? Or is he wondering that they've lost so much of that offensive line that maybe Carr gets injured and he has a chance to play? Or he has like the Philadelphia move where he's more mobile than Carr, so maybe Gruden goes to him Guess he can get out of the pocket.
I think being second full year in Vegas, but I think you hit it just a second ago. I think it's Carr's year to put up or shut up, and if he doesn't, Mariota's right there. But I think it's the reworking of the deal. Yeah, you're guaranteed $3.5 million, but you can make up to $8 for $1 million.
Which that has to be playing time,
and that's what I think. That's got to be what it is. It's got to be playtime, and you're making $8 million. That's just odd.
And then a couple backup roles getting confirmed. Mitch Trubisky leaves Chicago, goes to Buffalo to back up Josh Allen.
And they've made it quite clear he is backing up Josh Allen.
I don't know. I think it's a quarterback controversy, but no, it's
no,
not. It's really
no way.
I'm kind of surprised he goes there to a quarterback that's just as young as him. I think you'd want to go with to somebody that's a veteran, not just because they're going to leave sooner, but because you can learn a lot more. Same thing happens. Where did it go? Jacoby Brissett. I'm kind of surprised going to Miami as that backup role, but that one is a little bit more interesting with Tua.
And they said the same thing, that one too. The article that I read earlier today, they said he's going just to mentor Tua.
And that makes sense. I mean, I'm okay with that. But the big one.
Your buddy.
Joe, your buddy, your favorite quarterback of all time, Joe Flacco. You are so wacko for Flacco. Former Jet.
He was on your team last.
He started for the Jets on a couple games and was terrible. Signs with the Philadelphia Eagles.
Jalen Hurts now learning from Joe Flacco.
I don't know what he's going to learn from him.
I don't know.
How to learn to be carried to a Super Bowl?
They don't even have the same game style. That's the thing. That's the one.
There's nothing he's going to learn. And then, unfortunately, Corey Linsley from the Packers, the offensive lineman, goes to the Chargers, not the Jets, which is a little disappointing for me.
Now, don't forget about Sammy.
I'm forgetting about Sammy Watkins.
Sammy Watkins.
He might go to your team. Yeah. I don't want to give you any.
Sammy Watkins looking to good. He had a visit today with Baltimore. So who is your most surprising free agent?
It's Juju.
Is it?
It's 100% Juju. Just for staying in Pittsburgh for less money, especially when you get offers from two of the top teams in the AFC. I think it's Juju.
Right.
And you put on here about defense as well. I'm not sure.
Well, I put on there most surprising free agent that's still on the market. Still on the market.
Still on the market. There you go. I hadn't seen that yet, so I'm not sure yet.
So,
all right, let's get into some baseball. It is time to talk about my favorite division, the AL East, and I got some questions for you. Instead of just listing off all the people that have moved and left and stuff. And big news for the Toronto Blue Jays as they are not having the best spring. Not only has outfielder George Springer missed a few days with a strained oblique muscle, their big free agent signing, but their left-hander, Robbie Ray, who they just brought in, is going to skip one spring training start as he slipped on a staircase and bruised his elbow. But the big news that came out today, Kirby Yates, who they just signed to be their closer, Tommy John surgery, out for the season.
Yeah. I think it's going to hurt. As long as I think the offense is still dominating in there. I mean, with Springer, maybe they're just taking a little extra time with him. I think that's the main one. I mean, you'll be able to find a closer, but not his caliber. They're going to suffer a little bit, but I don't see them falling too far out of it.
That's a very young team.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see how they go. And that's when I want to start. Let's start with the Blue Jays. How is that young lineup going to go? I mean, you got obviously Vlad Guerrero Jr. on there. Lourdes Guerrero Jr. is really good as well. Bo Bichette's fantastic. Kevin Biggio is pretty good out there. You put all of them around George Springer. Don't forget about Teoscar Hernandez as well out there in right field. Can that offensive lineup surge this year and make up for what I feel is a pretty weak rotation?
I think they're going to be in that division. I think they're still going to end up middle of the road. I really do. Baltimore still hasn't done anything to to really make a push in that division. The Yankees have money. They're still doing, and they've been so active on the free agent and signing.
Not as much as you would think.
But
not as much as you would think.
I think the Blue Jays are just going to be that team middle of the road. Out of the week, week of games, 7 games. If you can get 4 out of 7, or even split the week 3 out of 3, I think that's what's going to happen with that ball club, unless they can get hot and find, a 5 or 6 game win streak. But I don't see that happening with that club.
Do the Orioles take a step forward at all to the point of being able to play spoiler at least? I saw a stat that last year, I want to say they played the Yankees and Rays, who were the top 2 teams in that division. What was it, 25 times, 30 times? I forget. Last year was such a weird schedule. I forget how many times you played each. Maybe it was just 20 times. But they won like 2 games between the 2. Like, they just could not beat the Rays or the Yankees. And obviously, I think both of us feel that those are going to be the top 2 teams again in the East.
Yeah.
Will they be able to play a spoiler? You got Ryan Mountcastle, who's supposed to be the big prospect that's starting the year out there in left field. How about Felix Hernandez, former Mariner, on the rotation for Baltimore?
I love him, but I don't think he might get them 10 wins, maybe 10 wins.
That's a lot.
He doesn't have.
Saying Felix.
Well, yeah, but he doesn't have the big moving fastball like he used to. I mean, it's dropped easily about 3 or 4 miles an hour. I don't think he's been around long enough. People are figuring out how to hit on him. I don't see him being a spot or in a spot for them to push and even really do anything against the Yankees or the Rays. So they've got to get another big bat there. They have to.
Red Sox have nothing really to say. That they've lost a few players, still trying to get through their rebuild. Rays will be really interesting to me. They're always that team that overperforms what their roster looks like. And even though they lost a couple big pieces in their rotation, and the fact you have Michael Wacha as your 3rd and Rich Hill as your 4th, they're going to find a way to be a contender. I'm not going to – a lot of prediction sites that I looked at today have the Rays finishing even 3rd in this division. I'm not going to go that far. I think they're going to be right in it with the Yankees and either win the division or get the wild card. I love their offense. Randy Arozarena is the big question mark because obviously he had a ridiculous fall, but then had a rough winter as far as some accusations were going. Ji-Man Choi is the perfect Yankee killer. So this is going to be a really tough team in my eyes. And then, of course, you have my New York Yankees, who, if healthy, have the best team in the American League, but they never stay healthy, especially Stanton and Judge, who they have been on the same team for 2 years now and maybe have played 10 games together. It's just getting insane right now. It's for the Yankees, it comes down to, can Kluber and Taillon do enough to give enough depth to that rotation? What do you think?
I'd love to see Kluber do really well. I really would.
He looked good today. I watched a little bit of the spring training game.
I
mean, it was just Detroit, and it's just spring training. So, but he was looking pretty good.
Yeah, so I think that's the key point for that ball club. It's what can he do? What can he do? What can he spark in that team? And I don't know. I think it's going to be up to your team. It's all about the New York Yankees, and I think it's going to come down to they have to keep the pedal just full throttle all year.
Stay healthy. They just have to stay healthy.
And that's the problem. They've got to stay healthy on it. But I think as long as the Yankees keep the pedal down, they're going to be that team to easily run away. I already think they'll win the pennant.
We'll get into it next week when we do our full predictions. But I don't think it's a runaway for the Yankees. As much as I would love to say that, and where they would win by 10 games, where I'm seeing a lot of places, I'm not counting out the Rays for 1 second. Let's move to the NL East. Let's talk about those Braves. Is that rotation any good? If you have Charlie Morton and Max Fried are your top 2, is that rotation any good?
Maybe. That's about as far as I'm going to say. I mean, maybe. I don't think.
Hard-hitting analysis here on our sports report.
How do you get around? You got to know the Braves are the main team in that whole division, and then everybody else just kind of stockpiles. And I think that's what it's going to be again this year. Man, the Mets, the Nationals, Phillies. I think those guys. It could flip flop in any direction.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. I don't think there's anybody on there that's going to be a major person that's going to say, okay, I'm going to push this team farther. I'm more shocked at what the Marlins are doing right now in preseason.
It's called spring training.
Oh, I know.
By the way, just personal story here. Personal story. We did our big auction draft on Sunday.
I had to bowl.
Unfortunately, in the cold in Pomeroy.
I can't believe you guys still did that outside.
It was brutal. However, your name got brought up many times because our buddy Richie, who plays our auctioneer, has a lot of fun throwing out stats, especially over players that he doesn't want. So he builds them up for people.
Yep.
Many times, every time he said this guy is leading spring training in home runs, we had to bring you up because that was always your favorite thing to do was throw out spring training stats like they mattered. But anyways, go ahead, spring training.
Well, I think I'm just shocked to see what they're doing. I mean, in the Grapefruit League, they're pushing the way through. Is that team just that good, or are they just trying to see who's going to be the best fit? It makes me wonder what's happening with their what Jeter's trying to do. I
love what Jeter's doing. I love what Mattingly's doing. I think their lineup needs a bit of work, but their starting rotation, even though it's all righties, are so young and so good. Sandy Alcantara, I watched multiple times last year. He's fantastic. So is Pablo Lopez. I'm excited to see Sixto Sanchez pitch for the Marlins this year. I just don't know if they have enough bat. And yes, they made the playoffs last year, but it was a weird playoff format. They're going to be that interesting team for me. Mets are going to be interesting as well with Francisco Lindor joining the squad. Carlos Carrasco also joining, but he's out like 4 to 6 more weeks.
So you look at that roster.
Which roster, Mets?
The
Marlins.
The Marlins. And you look at them. Tell me who that it guy is.
Marte?
For offense.
Starling Marte is still pretty good. Obviously came from the Pirates.
But, I mean, you look at that. I mean, I know they're still trying to figure out who's going to play second base. You got Birdie that can play anywhere.
You got some veteran leadership at least.
You look, but who's going to be that guy that jumps out?
Yeah, again, they don't have a sexy name at all.
There's no sexy about that team.
But this is a team. This is a team that can win 80 games.
Maybe.
Especially you have the Nationals, who I think are on the downslide. Obviously, when you look at that rotation, Scherzer, Strasburg, Corbin, Lester, that looks fantastic 5 years ago.
Yeah, exactly.
But they're starting to have some age show. And then the Phillies, who are in this weird situation where they keep spending all this money, and it's so old.
Mm-hmm.
They're so old anyway. Didi Gregorius, Andrew McCutchen, they're not fully getting in that rebuild. I think they finished last in this division, personally. But it'll be interesting. I think the NL East has a lot more contenders in it than the AL East, but I think both divisions are going to be very, very interesting this year. And that brings us to the East Division draft. I never switched to the NL preview, but whatever. There we go. The East Division draft, which again, Robert, you get the first pick, which you did in all of the divisions.
Was I lucky, or
yes.
am I just that good at calling the coin toss? Come on, tell me.
You're lucky.
No,
You're straight lucky.
No.
Never. You were fantastic at your 50-50s, sir. So go ahead. Make your first pick.
You know how hard it was, and I decided that I was just going to be nice.
What?
I was
You're
nice.
gonna what?
I'm gonna be nice.
Oh. I take back everything bad I said about you in the last 20 minutes.
All right. My first pick, I am going to go with the NL East, Atlanta Braves.
It's an interesting pick.
As much as I've talked up your New York Yankees today.
Atlanta's a very good team. I think it's an interesting pick just because I'm not sure they win that division. I've already said I'm not fully sure about my New York Yankees, but since you're being nice, I can't let you have a second chance to get them.
No.
So I'm going to take my New York Yankees now and allow you to take the team that I think could beat them.
And that's the only team that I think has a decent chance. So I'm going to take the Tampa Bay Rays in the third pick.
And I'm going to stick to New York with my second pick. Give me the New York Mets, who I think could win that division.
When are you and I going to fly back to New York and just go catch a couple of games?
When I win the lottery, probably at this point.
We got to figure that out. I mean, the wife's already looking at spending money to go to Anaheim. I haven't told her that when we go down to – she wants to go down spring of next year, taking the grandkids down to – I don't know if I have the heart to tell her, hey, can we go to a spring training game? We're not that far. Let me rent a car that day. I'm going to drive down to a spring training game, but
there you go.
Maybe. All right, I'm going to jump on and hope Toronto gets things figured out with Springer. I'm going to take them in my fifth pick.
Yeah, Eric is very happy that you took the Rays, and now he's your best friend. I am so conflicted with this. I'm going NL East with my next pick. I'm going to take the Nationals. Like I just said, that I'm worried about their rotation and their age, but it's still so good. At least on paper, that rotation is too good. So give me Schuster, Strasburg, Corbin, Lester, and give me the Nationals.
Okay. Well, I came down to these last four, and it was like, okay, it's pretty much a coin toss.
Well, 3 and the Orioles.
Yeah, 3 and the Orioles. That's exactly right. And maybe just because the Phillies are spending money, I'm going to go Phillies in the 7th pick.
Good. I was really worried. I was between 2, and you left the other team for me. Even though they're my 4th pick in this draft, I'm all in on the Miami Marlins being a 500 team. I'm not saying playoffs. I'm not saying division especially. I'm not saying winning the division. I'm saying they can get to 81-81.
Right.
And getting them with the 8th pick in this East draft, I think is fantastic. And I got lucky, which will make up for my last pick. So I'll take the Miami Marlins.
All right.
That leaves you the Boston Red Sox.
And I didn't I fill that in for you? I said the team that's not Baltimore.
Yes.
And you can't believe him. So I'm going to have to call John Healy and Jeff Davis and say, come on, tell me what I got to do to get Boston Red Sox to play. So I'm going to take Boston. Hopefully they can make a push and maybe.
You know what Boston needs? Theo Epstein back.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean
That's
the reason why that team I think did what they were doing. I mean they were huge. He was making moves.
He
was
built
doing
a very, very good team in Boston.
So.
And then, of course, that'll leave me with the Baltimore Orioles, which could really, really hurt as far as the overall wins goes. So for Robert, here in our last division, he has Atlanta, Tampa Bay, Toronto, Philadelphia, and Boston. I have both New York teams, the Yankees and the Mets, the Nationals, the Marlins, and the Orioles. Next week, we will do our division winners, our pennant winners, our World Series pick, MVP, Cy Young, all of the fun awards.
I can't wait to put all of these teams together and look at them exactly head to head.
And the cluster that we have created in this.
Exactly.
Hopefully it doesn't go as bad as basketball has been going for me. All right, let's get into
There's nothing wrong with that.
There's a lot wrong with it. We will get into it. We'll have 2 seconds to talk about it because it's already 7:30 and we have so much to talk about. Let's get some local high school sports.
We're going to keep it as short as we can, and we're just going to talk about a Soton and a Clarkson. Soton is lost a couple back-to-back games. They lose to Liberty this past Saturdays. They had to play in hail up in Spangle.
Really?
I mean, terrible hail. Jack Gilmore had a touchdown, but him and Braden Barnea combined for only 85 total yards rushing and lose to Liberty 20-7. They will play Lynn Ritzville on Friday night out at Asotin at 6 o'clock. And your Clarkson Bantams, as we did talk a little bit, I did travel down and do that game with a buddy of ours, Todd Richardson. We talked about you many times on the air. They traveled down to Othello and come up with a tough loss, 34-19 to the 2-2 Othello Huskies. Now your Bantams also 2-2 on the season. Eddie Berglund had 151 yards rushing on 22 carries, 2 touchdowns, one of 2-yard that should have been in. They marked him short, but he made a good lunge. I thought he had gotten in, and then he had another 25-yard scamper. So great play by Berglund. Berglund now has played basically 2 full games and has 340 yards rushing. He was sitting 6th in the GSL with only 2 games. The bad thing is they ran into Othello, who had the top 2 rushers in the league, both going in pregame over 222 yards. Both of them stood about 6'2". One was 240, the other about 180. So you know what happened. Ground and pound with the big boy, and then the other guy bouncing it outside and able to tear things up. So Bantams didn't have Nick Schofield in this ball game, so it all came down to Terrell Lawson. Terrell went 11 of 15 for 141 yards, but he did have one big touchdown pass of 50 yards to Caden Vincent. Vincent ended up with 6 receptions for 102 yards. But great offense. They had 317 total yards of offense and averaged 5.5 yards per carry. So, give it to Eddie Berglund and Tiger Carringer. But they have a very tough feat as they take on the 3-0 Eagles on Friday, as I will travel up to West Valley and do that game. 7 o'clock is the kickoff slate for that one.
You and I are both busy on Friday.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. Then we turn our attention. It was senior night for the girls soccer. They lost a tough one to the 6-1 Cheadle Park. They lost 2-1, and they will play East Valley on Thursday. And we get ready to wrap things up. We'll jump back across the river to Lewiston Baseball. The Bengals are 3-1 on the season. They did split a doubleheader versus Coeur d'Alene on Saturday. They lose game 1 10-4, and then win game 2 7-4. And this is their big push this weekend. They'll travel down to southern Idaho. They'll play 4 games in 2 days. They'll play Highland of Pocatello and Rocky Mountain on Friday, and then they'll play Eagle and Madison on Saturday.
Quick look at the Big Sky schedule as the 3 teams that we usually follow on here, Idaho, Idaho State, and Eastern Washington, all did not play last week. They all played this week. Southern Utah will go against Idaho Saturday at noon. Idaho State will face off against UC Davis at 1 p.m. on Saturday. And poor Cal Poly has to go to that ugly red field of Eastern Washington. I hope Paul's listening. Saturday at 1:05.
I like that.
Worst field in the league. We talked about it before. I'm not getting into it again. All right, let's get into some LCSC sports, as the baseball team has been fantastic this season. Now ranked 9th in the NAIA. They were ranked like 23rd or something to start the year, but have been fantastic. Now on a 9-game winning streak after they swept the 4-game set at College of Idaho, now 18-2 on the season. They won all 4 games by a combined 52-10. With that first game, what did I send it to you? It was like 22-1.
Yeah, something like that.
They scored like 10 runs in the second inning. Just ridiculous. The offense has been fantastic. Track and field got things going after their indoor championships. Now they're doing all the outdoor stuff. They were the only NAIA team at the Whitworth Central this weekend. Freshman Leon Menton. Freshman.
Yeah.
Not only won the javelin against NCAA teams, but he sets a school record, and he does it over the previous record holder, who's just his current coach, Jacob Whitaker. So he had to stand there and watch his record get broken. But he threw it 63.36 meters on his 4th attempt to win the event and break the record. Another LC record gets broke as Annika Grogan breaks the 100-meter outdoor record for LCSC, as she has a time of 12.83, beating the previous record of 12.85. I wonder how many times you have to replay that to get the exact time down for that. She finishes 6th in that event. Delaney Warren ends up winning the women's discus with a throw of 39.71 meters on her second attempt to win the event. Ashley Britt wins the 400 meters and also wins the 4x400 meter relay for the ladies, as Ashley Britt was joined by Alexa Horsley, Rebecca Kalmbach, and Carly Smith. So a fantastic showing by the women. And again, congratulations to Leon Menton and Annika Grogan for setting school records on their meet. Women tennis, again, playing a really hard match against Eastern Washington. It's now their fourth NCAA Division I program they faced this year. And we talked about it before. Plenty of freshmen on this team. They do lose 0-7, but Kai said in the interview that it was a fantastic test for them. They're learning lots. He just wished that they had another match the next day so they could work on the things that they are learning. They're just trying to figure out. Eastern Washington has a lot of players that are really hard-hitting players, and they just weren't able to figure out how to defend against that. Volleyball now 5-5 on the year after losing both of their matches to Corbin. They lose Friday 1-3, and then they get swept on Saturday 0-3. I don't have scores yet for the golf that just finished up their LC State Invitational. Obviously, Alicia, who does a fantastic job updating everything, it was watching the men's game live, so she was a little busy tonight. But I do know that the men finished fifth, and the women ended up winning it on their side. I don't have individual scores or full results just yet. I'll probably bring them up next week as they have I think it's their last hosting for a little bit, as now they'll go back on the road. Schedule for this upcoming week. If you want to see the Warriors, you better hurry.
Yep.
This is the second to last series that they have at home this regular season. They will host Eastern Oregon this weekend. 2 doubleheaders, Saturday and Sunday. On Saturday, it's noon and 3. On Sunday, it's 11 and 2. I will be your PA guy for the noon game on Saturday. LCSC Cross Country will host the CCC Conference Championships right here at the Cross Country Trail. That'll be Friday at 11:30. Track and field will go back up to Whitworth for the Whitworth Invitational and Multis. That'll take place Thursday and Friday. Men's tennis is going to have a doubleheader against Montana because, again, they don't want to play anyone easy. That'll be 1 p.m. and 5 p.m. on Friday, and they only have one more scheduled match after this doubleheader, so the season's getting down to the end. And volleyball will host the College of Idaho on Friday and Saturday. Friday's match at 7 p.m., Saturdays at 5 p.m. I'm calling both games, and I think it'll be right here on KLCZ 88.9 FM. Obviously, again, Alicia off on the road right now, so we're getting emails back and forth. So I'm still learning details. But I will be doing both of the games Friday and Saturday. I'll be the PA guy on Saturday for the first game. So we have lots to do. I made the mistake of saying I was free on Sunday. I forgot we're doing Addie's birthday party the week before her birthday for that weekend, not the week after. So I'm not available on Sunday because I will be doing that.
Yeah, don't mess that up.
Man, there's so much going on. I always forget stuff. All right, let's quickly talk NBA.
All you got to say about NBA right now,
I gained 2 games.
I still have a 14-game lead. That's all that matters.
Yeah, Robert's team's 324 and 308. My team's 310, 326. But I do go over 500 this week and gain the 2 games, and that's all that matters. It does help that the Houston Rockets, who are a team that I had to draft, snapped a 20-game losing streak this week. I think it was against Oklahoma City. That's really, really hard to lose 20 straight games.
That's just ugly. Knowing what that team used to do over the last couple of years, to see them hit the skids like that, it's sad. I'm glad you had them.
I'm sure. I'm sure that you have no problem with me having the team that is losing them all. NBA scoreboard for you tonight. The Nuggets beat the Magic 110-99. The Pelicans beat the Lakers, who are without Anthony Davis and LeBron James right now. Pelicans beat the Lakers 128-111. The Suns beat the Heat 110-100. And my New York Knicks back to 500, even though you drafted them.
Yep.
They beat the Wizards 131-113. Currently going on right now, you have the Trailblazers over the Nets 35-32. That's in the first quarter. Also in the first quarter, how about the Philadelphia 76ers over the Warriors right now 25-9. So not very close to start that one as well. You have the NBA trade deadline on Thursday. I don't follow NBA enough anymore to really care about it. Usually the NBA trade deadline was the best out of the three sports. Because obviously the NFL was never anything. MLB kind of got spread over a week or two. And the NBA trade deadline was always interesting because a lot of their trades happen the day of. So I'll still be tuning in to see if any big moves go. But again, I just don't follow the sport as much as I used to tell you any predictions I have for moving. But it'll be interesting to see if the Knicks are actually buyers this year instead of sellers. What do you think?
I think they have to do something if they want to keep being that's a mediocre team. But the way they started, I really think that they go out and find somebody. One more shooter. Who that is, I don't know. I mean, they've got a lot of things that can happen, especially in that big market. I mean, there's a lot of players that just want to get out and get some notoriety, get some game time, get some play, and I think they look for one big shooter to hopefully just keep moving them above that 500 level.
And I want to give a quick update to the NHL, as we have not talked any hockey on this channel. But one thing I want to bring up, and I didn't realize that they had done this. Did you realize that the divisions are sponsored this year in the NHL? So instead of the Central, the East, the West, and the North, it's the Mass Mutual East and the Discover Central and the Honda West and the Scotia North. I don't know if I even have a problem with it.
Brought to you by the Honda Pilot West Division.
Yeah. I'm actually kind of okay with it. I mean, you can still just call it the North. And actually, if you go on like ESPN, they don't even have the sponsors on there. And maybe that's why I didn't realize that they had done that. Maybe I haven't realized because, again, my team, the Buffalo Sabres, are on their own ridiculous losing streak. I think they've lost 14 straight. Just, what has happened to my teams? My best team right now is 500.
No, you're on a 6-game.
Well, no, because they don't count overtime loss. They've had an overtime loss in there.
Yeah.
So that makes things a little different as far as their schedules go. But they have lost a ton.
I didn't pick a team. It just never.
I'm switching teams. I've never switched teams in my life. Hockey, I'm switching teams because the Seattle Kraken are coming. I'm going to be a Kraken fan.
I think that as soon as that happens, I think maybe I'll jump in with both feet. I mean, I love going up and watching the Chiefs play.
Eric kind of actually hates the division sponsorships.
Oh.
It could be worse. You could be the Michigan State Spartans presented by whoever's sponsoring that team. So I'm fine with it. It's coming from a NASCAR fan who went from the Winston Cup to the Next Cup to the Sprint Cup to now it's just the Cup Series because they have multiple sponsors, but Monster Energy Cup at some point. So I guess that's where I've come from. So I don't really bother me as much.
Just where they can make more money. It's where they can get
Sabres
money into it.
So darn bad. This doesn't even matter. All right. Enough complaining. Let's talk about the sports that do not get enough airtime. And we start with Robert's new favorite sport.
Whoop, whoop. I actually watched highlights today. I did.
You should have been watching full games, but I told you guys last week, Aussie Rules Football was on Fox Sports 2. It was on the schedule. It was.
I went home and I set the DVR.
It was on my Hulu schedules. I had it all set to DVR and was confused when I woke up Friday and not have the Richmond game on there. Eric, who has been fantastic for us these last couple weeks, throwing us stats here and there, was the one that told me today that they are working on a deal still. So they pulled all the games literally a day or two before the games were supposed to go down. And now we don't have scheduled games on Fox Sports 2 this week.
So with all of Eric's help, I have to say this. Maybe we finally throw him a bone and we start talking about 5-pin bowling. I almost brought it up today Google it to watch what it is and all that. So first time in 50 years that the wooden spoon side lost. So he's already well in
He loves the squid bits. That's what he does on the kickoff. First time in 50 years that the wooden spoon side lost to a grand finalist round one the next year. So the worst team last year played a grand finalist this year, and they ended up losing, which I guess is not very surprising. What was surprising was your new favorite team, Geelong, my bitter rivals, never lead in their game and lose to Adelaide, who I think obviously Geelong should be way better than. They lose that one 103-91. You watch the highlights. What do you think of your team?
They made a great push at the end. I mean, they just came out a little flat in the first half, but hands down to the Adelaide. They looked good that entire the first two quarters. So I was excited to watch the highlights, but some of the kicks they were hitting and bending that ball. There was a couple from the far left wing, and they were able to hook it in there. So I'm excited to finally get to watch some full highlights, which I plan on probably doing tomorrow.
Oh, so he had said it wrong. So if Adelaide had beat Geelong, so it was the wooden spoon beating the grand finalist. Then I didn't realize that was the game he was talking about.
So yeah, I'm excited to watch it. I even, I told you I messaged our buddy Wayne Herschel.
Mm-hmm.
I said, okay, Wayne, you're from Aussie, you're from down under. Who do I need to follow? And he doesn't even watch. That's what was shocking to me.
It's really hard to do here. It's tough to watch here. So I can't really blame him. Yeah, Adelaide last year 3-14 on the year.
Yeah.
So we're getting the big win.
We're only one match in. Only one match.
Yeah.
So I mean,
that should have been a win. But the team that did win, my Hawthorne Hucks, which I'm so bummed about. Not that they won, but they played at like 1:30 local time. So obviously I'm not staying up that late to watch these games. I'm way too old for that. So the app now, they say on there like 5 to 7 hours after a game gets done, you can watch the full game on this app. You just have to avoid seeing the final score on the app. Eric was nice enough to send me a link straight to the video page so I can skip it. Well, while waiting for that to finally load so I could watch my Hawthorne Hawks, I forget I follow Hawthorne on Facebook and spoiled it for me. And I'm disappointed because Hawthorne comes back from 40 to win 92-91. They were getting completely destroyed, come all the way back, scored like 5 or 6 goals in a row in the third quarter, which is fantastic. Devin Smith for Essendon does score with just under 2 minutes to go to give Essendon the lead back. And within 20 seconds, Tim O'Brien goes right down and scores for the Hawks to win it by 1. So just like that, the Hawks, who a lot of people were putting in as the wooden spoon, 1-0, and I will take it. It wasn't pretty, and it wouldn't have been fun to watch early, but I went back and watched that entire fourth quarter, and the back and forth they had there, just ridiculous. Port Adelaide had the biggest win of the week. They beat the team that we both believe will win the wooden spoon this year. Port Adelaide wins 117-65. So like I said, if anyone is interested of the sport that we are spewing every week now, and you want to watch Aussie Rules, download the AFL Live app. And on there, you can check out all of that. They do this really cool highlight package for all the games. It's like 7-8 minutes long if you want to watch it that way. Or if you wait long enough, you can watch full replays of those games
each quarter.
And they break it down so you can just watch a quarter of whatever. So if you just want to watch a game and understand what we're talking about, you can watch it there. Unfortunately, they won't let you turn off the score. So it's if you don't want to be spoiled, it gets a little difficult. A couple of key games I wanted to bring up this week, and these are local times. What's
Eric says, don't forget my Dogs started off with a solid win against Collingwood.
They did.
All right.
The Dogs do get their win 69-53.
You said doo-doo. His doo-doo did. They won.
They did. So these are local times, but Friday morning at 1:50 a.m., is Geelong trying to get back, and they will take on Brisbane.
And it was supposed to be on FS2, and it was one of those games so I hope they get a deal done.
Gosh, I want to see it on my TV, not my phone. That's the key. A really fun one, I think, 7:45, which again could have been one of those games that we get if they had the FS2 spot. Sydney against Adelaide, who just beat your team, and see if they can keep that rolling there. And then Saturday, 7:10 p.m., you get Hawthorn versus Richmond. And then a really, really good matchup at 9:20. The Western Bulldogs, Eric's Western Bulldogs, will take on West Coast. And I think that might be the game of the week as far as talent-wise goes. So there is your Aussie Rules weekly update. And get used to that, because I'm going to get Robert to really, really love this sport. It got a little bit more difficult with FS2 messing things up, but I'm going to get him to watch a lot more of that sport. What did you think of the highlights?
I loved them. Those guys, watching some of those guys up in the air just to make a catch. Even one guy come down with the ball and he started running. And he was a little late kicking on, pushing the ball up, passing the ball up. And gets a guy headbutt right into his nose, man. They just collide. Next thing you know, he's out cold and bleeding out, And the first thing I think
I saw that same play. I watched the highlights of your team, so we can talk about it.
And I was thinking, why aren't they? And this guy doesn't have a mouthpiece in.
No.
You would think they would at least wear a mouthpiece.
And the crazy thing about this sport is, unless your injury is way over the top, or you're just in a spot that you're in the way, they do not stop play.
Mm-hmm. They just keep going.
They will play around you. The medical team runs out there on the field while the play is going on. They'll check on you, and then they will run you off the court if they have to. Oh, there you go. Yeah, Dangerfield got a 3-game ban for that hit. It was a pretty brutal hit.
It was tough.
But yeah, it's just, I've seen multiple times. When I first got into the sport, there was a Hawthorn player that tore his ACL. And they had to walk him off the field while the game was still going on. In a playoff game. Just, the sport is so crazy. All right, let's get into some PGA. As Aussie Matt Jones wins the Honda Classic. He wins by 5, shooting 12 under. Wins, of course, the $1.26 million. I wish I was better at golf. USA's Brandon Hagee gets second. He is 7 under. Gets just $763,000. No big deal.
Just
the next tournament's always one of my favorites to watch. It's the World Golf Championships. It's the match play thing.
Mm-hmm. I like that format.
I'm a little disappointed Joel Damon's not playing in it, because it'd be fun to check out. But I always like the match play formats that they do. They don't do it enough, I don't think, in golf. I think it would be kind of cool to see more head-to-head stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously they've changed the format over the years, so the first round's now a 4-person match instead of just head-to-head all the way through. So. But I do like that they kind of do the bracket style and let you pick your brackets. And maybe we'll do a bracket and see how terrible we do.
Yeah, I love the format with it. It makes you have to play good golf. If your match could be over within the first 12 holes and be done. And I like that. I love that format. And that one's going to be down in Austin, Texas. So the weather should be good. Should hold out and have a great tournament. A little recognition. We got some LCO bowling to talk about. Buddy of ours. Congrats to Dwayne Thompson on his 300. Will be 2 weeks ago on Thursday. He shot on March 11th. That's his. I asked him. I said, "How many of you had?" He just says 30 plus. 30 plus sanctioned 300.
Yeah, he has way more than that.
Yeah,
unsanctioned and stuff.
He ended up shooting 300, 224, 201 for 725. So congratulations to Dwayne, shooting extremely well a few weeks ago. So.
And I forget even what was happening in PBA. We skipped over that step. So we'll move on from bowling there. Let's talk NASCAR for a few minutes. Atlanta, I usually like this track. I usually like this race. It was boring. Maybe it's because Chase Elliott blew up.
Well,
but Kyle Larson dominated
that's
this race.
It was all about Kyle Larson.
As you put on there, he wins 2 stages. He leads 269 of the 325 laps And it wasn't by a little bit.
No.
There were times he was up by 15 seconds. If we didn't have a caution flag and bring everybody back, or we didn't have stages, he might have lapped the field at some points. However, with 8 laps to go, Ryan Blaney, who just he found it by the end of the race and was able with cautions to stay close enough. 8 laps to go, he does pass Kyle Larson and pulls away. Third place was like 12 seconds back.
Yeah,
it wasn't even a thing.
Yeah,
which is surprising.
Blaney was such a long shot to even get in the mix, and he just pounded it out to get there. But makes you wonder what happened, how that team of Kyle Larson's is feeling. Couple days after this happened. I mean, they've been
red hot though.
Yeah.
So I mean, yes, you want to win these races, you get those playoff points and stuff, but
you did jump 3 spots.
Again, you always bring up these points.
I know.
Points don't matter anymore in NASCAR. You get a win, you're into the playoffs, and then the points will matter then. But right now, it's not about. I mean, once you've win a race, it's not about how many points you get in a race. It's can you win a stage and can you win a race, because that's where you are able to get the bonus stuff. And obviously, I do say they don't matter, but if you are the highest point getter in the regular season, you do get bonus points for that. But
how are you gonna...
usually it doesn't matter because as already we're only 5 races in, and Denny Hamlin has a 43-point lead.
Yeah. Well, how are you going to handle not watching Bristol live?
I've had something going on Sunday. Every Sunday,
Sundays, yeah,
since Daytona. So I have not watched the race live yet, other than the Daytona 500.
I'm excited for this weekend.
Bristol on the dirt. If you're not a NASCAR fan, I beg you, check out this race. It's going to be just silly. I want to know how many cars finish.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch it, see what happens.
But it will happen Sunday at 12:30 p.m. local time, and it's going to be a mess. I'm going to love every second of it. And I will be watching it later that night. I won't be watching it live because, again, we're having my daughter's 4-year-old birthday party.
Probably what will happen.
And that's okay with me. All right. It is this time for this week in sports history.
Yeah, a very quick version of all of this. We'll start things off in 1892. Lord Stanley presents the Silver Challenge Cup for hockey, now called the Stanley Cup. 1953, the Boston Braves moved to Milwaukee. In 1956, the biggest NBA margin of victory, the Minnesota Lakers 133 to the St. Louis Hawks 75. That is now ranked 7th on the all-time.
I know what my trivia question is going to be.
Uh-oh. Well, I don't know about that.
I hope not, because I might have no clue.
All right. 1982. I remember this one, and I remember watching it and it happening. Jerry Pate celebrates his golf win by jumping into the water hazard after he threw in the commissioner, Dean Byrne, and awesome. Pete Dye into the water on the 18th hole at Sawgrass. So it was really cool. 1985, Commissioner Peter Uberoth reinstates Willie Mays and Mickey Mantle for gambling association with working for a casino, of all things. They were doing that way back in 1985, too. 1989, Pete Rozelle announces his retirement from the NFL commissioner spot after 29 years. 1990, the LA Lakers retire Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's number 33. And the next year, Philadelphia 76ers retire Wilt Chamberlain's number 13 jersey. 1994, Wayne Gretzky sets the NHL record with 802 goals scored. He ended his career, though, with 893. 1995, Michael Jordan announces he's ending his 17th month retirement and coming back to play for the NBA Chicago Bulls.
And the Knicks hated every second of it.
Nope. 2018, Portuguese soccer superstar Cristiano Ronaldo scores his 50th career hat trick in Real Madrid's 6-3 win over Girona. 2019, Houston Rocket guard James Harden becomes the first player in single season with 31. And he scores against all 29 opponents. Go crazy.
Scores 30 or more?
Yeah.
Crazy. That is ridiculous.
And the biggest one, and for all of us Mariner fans, 2019, Japanese baseball right fielder Ichiro Suzuki finishes his career with a record 4,367 base hits as the Seattle Mariners beat the Oakland A's in Tokyo 5-4, and that game has been replayed many times over the last year and a half of that happening.
I think it's the last time the Mariners won a game, right?
Yeah, it sure seems like that because we're rebuilding all the time.
All right. Let's see what I can do. I forget. I probably failed last week since I can't remember. But it is time to see if you can stump me. I stumped you earlier, so it's fair game.
All right, I'm going to give you an option. We'll do both of them,
Okay.
but I'm going to give you the option
For the official one.
The official one.
Yeah. Which I'm sad we're not keeping track of these records.
We should be. Okay.
25 in.
I guess we're going to go. I guess I'll have to go back and watch the videos. And we'll
they're all on there.
They're all on YouTube.
Page. Well, except for the first couple episodes. But I don't know if we did stump Randy those first couple episodes anyway.
We did. Well, watch them, replay them. I'll replay them. We'll start watching them. Make sure you like our YouTube channel and all that. All right. You have a choice. Okay. NBA basketball or NFL football.
Oh, give me NFL, 100%.
All right, NFL football. Yeah, let's see. Where is it at? 1989, Pete Rozelle announces retirement as NFL commissioner after 29 years. Who did he precede, or who preceded him, and who succeeded him?
What was his name? Oh, no.
Which one are you trying to figure out?
Oh, I have no idea who is before Pete Rozelle. It's the guy after. So Roger Goodell took over for... I was hoping I would say that sentence and it would pop into my head. Maybe I wanted the basketball. Oh, no, I'm going to be so mad. I know the name for the after, but I can't think of it. What is it?
All right, the preceded one was Burt Bell. And
that one I would have never got.
Burt Bell was from 1946 to 1959. And yes, you are going to kick yourself because from 1989 to 2006, Paul Tagliabue was the...
You did the really sad thing is the only name that kept popping into my head was David Stern. And I know that's basketball. And I'm like, what am I doing?
I thought you were going to get that one really.
Yeah, I think it's just because of all the 30 and 30s I've been watching, it's in the era of Pete Rozelle. So I just keep thinking Pete Rozelle was the last one. But
so here was the NBA one, and we talked about two.
Yeah, Eric got it. Eric Watkins knows his stuff.
Yeah. All right, Eric. Then you need to chime in on this one then too. So, how many? We talked about two different people retiring jerseys. How many jerseys has the 76ers retired? How many jerseys
for the 76ers?
For the 76ers have been retired. Can you name at least four of them? Because 4 is not right.
I have no idea. I think it's less than the Lakers.
No, it's a heck of a lot less than the Lakers.
But I have no idea.
They've actually retired 7 players and 1 announcer. And 2 of them I didn't know just because they were way too old. But Hal Greer, number 15, and number 32, Billy Cunningham. Bobby Jones, number 24. And these 4 you should have got. Eric, you were off by 2. These next ones you should have got really easy. Dr. J, number 6. Will Chamberlain, number 13. Maurice Cheeks, number 10. And, yes, the mouth himself, Charles Barkley, number 34.
Okay, how many numbers have the Yankees retired?
Way too many. Yeah, I mean, when are they going to go into the triple digits on a regular ball club? It's going to happen.
It has to soon.
It's going to happen really soon. I would say they've probably retired close to 20,
over
25.
20. It's over 20.
I'd say 25 probably.
21 numbers for 22 players.
Crazy.
Can you name the one number that has been retired by 2 different people? I think you can get this one, even though you're not a Yankee fan. There's one number that has been retired twice by the Yankees.
The only one that keeps coming up in my brain is Yogi Berra.
And that is incorrect. Yogi Berra was number, I'm going to blank, it was a single digit.
6. He was 6.
He was number 8. I have the list here. Oh, actually, there's 2 numbers. Because actually, you're right. Yogi Berra and Bill Dickey were number 8.
Write it down. I got half of it, right?
So they were both number 8. The number I was thinking of when I saw the number on here is the number 42.
Oh,
obviously, Jackie Robinson got retired by everybody, and then Mariano Rivera was the last one to have the number 42.
The Sandman.
And Eric Watkins got that as well. But 8 as well has been retired by the Yankees. So there you go. That is this is a 25th episode.
And it was jam-packed, dude. And
we are cutting it right down to the wire. Next week, we're going to talk about how the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8 went. We'll get into the Final Four. The women will be just finishing up, setting up their Final Four, or just, I think they'll be in the Elite 8 by the time next Tuesday rolls around. So we'll get into that as well. We will do all of our season-long baseball predictions. We'll get more AFL going, and I'm going to do my best to try to get somebody from the Warriors basketball team in here to talk about their journey, as well as maybe try to get somebody on a track team or the cross country, because their season's getting pretty close as well. So we'll try to get a couple guests in. We've avoided it here the last couple weeks just because so much was going on, and I was so afraid of getting a player tested positive or something if they came in before their tournaments.
That's the last thing we need.
Thank you guys so much for hanging out, especially Eric Watkins for throwing in the stats that he did and hanging out with this entire 2 hours. Always appreciate it, man. He's a really great guy. Go obviously check out The Kickoff, which is his football podcast, or The Black Irish. If you're okay with controversial topics, as Eric and Jason Teasley attempted to get us our W2M network kicked off of YouTube. That's a fun story. But they also, it's a good podcast to just, it's not for the weak of heart. That's for sure. But that's Robert. I'm Randy. But for now, we are out.